Hello, welcome to today's video. In this cake, I will be creating a cake of thing. And yes, I will be talking like this the entire time. There will be cake, there will be chocolate.
And there will be blood.
Just kidding, I really can't keep that up for so long. But if you are wondering why I'm dressed like this, it's because I just filmed a TikTok video with my thing cake. And it's really super cool, so you should go check it out after this video. I'll post it below. But I'm already in costume and spent all this time creating this look, Wednesday inspired if you couldn't tell. So I thought I might as well just keep it on for this whole video and make it fun. And it's funny because I've had this shirt for a while and I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep it or not. The arms are a little bit short if you couldn't tell. But I'm happy I did, because when I was looking in my closet for something to wear for my Wednesday video, this shirt was perfect. And when I'm doing my makeup, I usually try to make myself look tanner rather than more pale. So that was a fun twist today because I was trying to make myself look paler than I normally look. And I think it worked. But enough about me, let's talk about this cake. My name's Melissa and I'm an artist. I create cakes, sculptures, and a lot of other cool things. I loved the show Wednesday on Netflix. I mean, who didn't? It definitely went super viral and I think it's one of their most popular, if not their most popular watched shows. And Thing was my favorite character, as I'm sure was many people's. So I got this idea in my head that I really wanted to make Thing as a cake. To make a super cool video for TikTok and for my YouTube video, and I was just gonna whip it together super quick and make this super awesome, super hyper realistic Thing cake. 17 hours later. I'm not joking, I spent more than half a week on this cake. And which isn't crazy for me with cakes, except that
the hand is so small, you know, it's just like the size of a hand.
But what can I say? I love detail and for such an iconic character, I couldn't hold back. But I'll let you see for yourself. Let's get right to it and make the Thing cake. I mean, let's get to it and let's make the Thing cake. I might just jump in and out of character this whole time because it's funny. We'll see. Starting this cake, I knew I needed to create a strong internal support structure to hold up the cake and all that chocolate that I'm going to be laying on top. So I found this thick wire in my house and I was like, this is perfect. It's going to be super strong and able to hold all that weight. I just kind of held the wire up against my fingers and then bent each piece together, and all of a sudden the claw was formed. That's exactly what I thought of. You have saved our lives. We are eternally grateful. One of my favorite lines from a movie. So I just glue gunned the whole top of it to make it super secure, you know, just glue, 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 add some tape, little tinfoil, level it out, and behold, we had a little base structure for my hand. Was this the most efficient and best way to create a structural support for this cake? I don't know, but it worked, and I was super proud of it. The whole bottom half of Thing is just going to be modeling chocolate sculpted on top of our structure, and then on top will be the cake. I don't need a lot of cake here. I mean, it's just for social media purposes. Also, it's a hand, so like, how much cake do you expect it to be? Not much on there to make it cake, I guess. Like, you know? I am not wasting any time here. I'm jumping right into it, and I just want to cover that whole piece that I built, that bottom half of the sculpture, in my modeling chocolate. What's really nice is I've got my own hand as a model the whole time that I'm doing this. I look at pictures online also that I've taken from the show as inspiration, but nothing's better than your model real in life with you. So thank you, hand, for being my model for this video.
You're welcome, Melissa.
I mean, you're welcome, Melissa. I go over these fingers 3 times. Not 6, 3. What I mean by that is the first time I just build up the basic form of the fingers just to make sure that they look correct. Second, I go around and add that meat and juice to the fingers. You know, I want to fatten them up. And that's when I start to plan out things. Where's my knuckle gonna be? Where's my fingernail gonna be? Where's the top knuckle gonna be? And then finally I go on and I add the final detail on the fingers. I add in all those creases and folds and start making it super hyper realistic. What's really important here is I want you to feel that pressure of that hand pressing down and supporting itself on that table. And that all comes through in the fingers. The way they're specifically bent, the way that the bottom of the finger lands on the table, and a little bit of the front of it before your fingernail sticks forward. I was a little bit surprised that this thing stood up. I will say it was a little bit top heavy, especially once I add the cake on. A few times it kind of just fell backwards. But I just learned to be super careful around it to make sure that didn't happen. But I was really, really proud of myself that I was able to make this thing stand so well just with those wires that I built in the beginning. Sometimes everything, you just learn as you go. I love detail, if you couldn't tell. And this hand, it was really fun because I got to make it even more detailed than a normal hand. I felt like it gave it so much more personality the more detail I put into it. It's not a real object. I want it to look super realistic, but it's, a little bit more monster looking than a normal hand. So I really played on that and made it look extra creepy with extra folds and textures that you didn't normally see on just a standard hand. I just used some leftover cake from a recent cake order that I had and some leftover buttercream as well. And I know I mentioned earlier, this is half chocolate sculpture, half cake, but I've had cakes kind of similar to this where there's really not a lot of room for cake, specifically a Demogorgon cake that I made, which I think is also posted on my channel from years ago. And it went a little viral on Instagram, which I was super happy about, but it was the first time I got negative comments. And a lot of people said that,
oh, it's mostly chocolate and there's no tinfoil inside and there's not a lot of cake, only the center of it is cake.
But first of all, there's not a lot of room for cake on the Demogorgon. He's
really skinny. Those legs and arms are super skinny. There's just no point in adding cake there.
Also, it was just for social media and I didn't need a lot of cake. But yeah, I tried not to let those negative comments put me down, but they did a little bit. But I've learned from it, and I now say my motto is, if there's cake in it, it's a cake. I don't care if there's just a little bit of cake in it, it's still a cake. As long as it's 80% edible, 20% structure, that's okay. And that's actually what they say in cake competitions as well. It needs to be 80% all cake or edible materials. And I'd say that this cake totally fits those regulations. My cake meets all regulations as stated by the judges of the North America cake competitions. If you have a problem with that, you'll have to face my vengeance. Sorry, a little Wednesday just popped at me. I covered all that cake up with a thin layer of modeling chocolate and then had a lot of fun starting to add in the details where the stitching will be, especially on the top of the hand where the hand was cut off and it looked like they took a piece of skin and placed it on top to cover what was inside and then stitched it up all around. That area was so fun because there's all these little gaps in between where each thread was placed, where you're gonna see a little blood peeking through. So I had a lot of fun sculpting all those and then making the indentations later on where the threads are going to be placed. Also really important was adding the tendons that kind of pop out on the front of the wrist. That's so you could see where the middle finger is connected to the top of the wrist, as well as the two fingers facing it on each side. And making sure to get all of those stitching areas along the hand, so everywhere where he was cut and re-sewn together, all those little creepy details that make thing thing. Make thing thing. Thing 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 is a thing that a thing 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 things. What? I don't know. Oh, that's fun actually. Thing 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 thing. Thing 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 thing. Thing 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 thing. Thing 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 thing. Thing 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 thing. Okay, we're probably not gonna keep that in, but we'll see. And I add little dots on each side of the creases that I made for where the stitches are gonna be, so I know where to put the thread in later on. And it makes it more realistic because you want that thread to look like it's being placed into the skin. So I'm gonna stick it inside each of those little dots that I make, and it will look super realistic later on. When it came to painting Thing, it was a little bit difficult because there's so many different scenes with different lightings. You have Thing in the daytime, like in the boat scene, Thing in the nighttime, like when he's in Wednesday's room talking or planning, and there's always just different lights being placed on him when he's outside in the woods and it's super dark. He looks different, all of them. So I kind of had to pick where I wanted to focus the colors. So I went more of like a daytime thing, like his natural hand color, but I wanted to make sure not to make him too pale because he's still alive even though he's technically dead. Does that make sense? He's still alive even though he's technically dead. A way to really make him look alive is making sure to add in those greens and purples, blues in the shaded areas or underneath that skin tone. You'll see me going in and adding that green and then blending in the yellow, the palish yellow or pink over it. So it just comes through very lightly, but it's super realistic because your skin has those veins underneath it. It has those blue, purple, and greens coming through underneath. If you look at your hand, you will see green on there. It's so cool. Like, I see green all over the place. So that was a way to make him still look super alive, even though he is way paler than a normal hand and technically, yes, dead. I mean, he's been stitched together, but like, he's a dead living hand. The fingers were so much fun because the way they made them super red on the bottom and super dark, and then they get lighter towards the top, and then some red, purpley colors coming through on the knuckles. So I stayed true to that, and I wanted to make sure that the fingernails look super gross. So I went with like a really muddy greenish yellow, kind of like a nauseating color, but it totally comes through in the most disgusting and amazing realistic way. I think the fingernails were one of my favorite parts of this whole piece. To make the thread, I just rolled out super thin pieces of fondant and then cut them and placed each one on, pressed it in very gently on each side to make sure it fit into those little indented holes that I made earlier, so it looks like it's sewn into that skin. All along the top, I made sure to add the little detail of the two little threads sticking out so you could see where it was knotted and then cut, and you have just two threads sticking through. Once I added those stitches, all of a sudden, Thing was before me. I mean, I was like, this is one of the creepiest, coolest cakes I've ever made. I'm so happy I went so in depth with the detail and made it super, super hyper realistic. When you're standing in front of that hand or just looking at it on screen, you cannot tell me it does not look alive. I mean, at least that's what I felt. I felt it really did look alive, and I was proud of that. Taking photos and videos of Thing, the cake, was so fun because he just popped on camera, just like he did in the actual show. I just couldn't stop. Like, every shot was a model shot. Every angle that I took, it just looked so beautiful. After the beauty shots came the fun part, where I actually put Thing on my shoulder. The balancing thing was a little bit hard, but I made it work and I managed not to drop him. And then I did a little dance to the Goo Goo Muck on TikTok, and then I grab him and eat him like you see me do here. But if you want to see it to the Goo Goo Muck song, which super fun and funny, you should check that out on my TikTok, which I'll link below. And I made sure to bite him on the side so I can get a cool cutting video also, which we'll do right here. Sliced pretty nicely, I gotta say, and tasted delicious. And after 17 hours of work, it took me all of about 30 seconds to destroy this cake. I debated keeping it and like rebuilding the top of it in tinfoil and then the modeling chocolate on top, which doesn't really go bad, so then it would last forever. But I always want to do that with all my cakes, and if I did that, I just would never ever have time to keep making new stuff. People always ask me, you know, why is it hard to cut these cakes? You know, you work so hard at them and then you cut them, or other people cut them for events. And I say, you know, they're meant to be cut and then they're not meant to live forever. So sorry Thing, but your time has come to an end as a cake. This time you cannot be saved. Oh, I think I hear Wednesday calling. Thank you for watching my video. Do not forget to like it and to subscribe for more amazing content to come. Check out my Patreon where you can help support me and get tons of behind the scenes content. Do not forget to check out my other links below, and I will see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed watching me create Thing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.